After vacuuming, I like to use this Prep All. It's a wax and grease remover. It's a pretty good deal for just lifting up sitting dirt or any buildup of grease or oil or anything. It'll just help everything adhere better for both, not only for your seam sealer, but also great idea to use it before you do your Raptor liner. That's what you're going to end up doing. Just try to wipe everything down liberally. It doesn't hurt anything to get a lot on there, other than your pocketbook maybe a little bit. It's not the cheapest stuff, but it's not that expensive either, though. It's worthwhile to have it. Definitely after you spend the money on the seam sealer, $20 a tube, and the Raptor liner at $60 a liter, you definitely don't want it peeling up because you didn't do a good enough job of prepping. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out some painter's tape. Try to leave yourself about a 1/4 inch on either side of the seam that you're sealing. You only need about a 1/2 inch of seam sealer to overlap that seam, and really that's liberal. But I like using tape. Some guys will just smear it on there, but I like my stuff to look good. I like it to be clean. Seam sealer sticks down to just about everything, and it doesn't lift off of anything. It's really tarry, sticky stuff. This is what I use here, this U-Pole. It's a paintable seam sealer, which makes it good if you're going to put it under Raptor liner, so it'll actually adhere to it. You go ahead and puncture the tube, put the little nozzle on there, get it loaded in your gun, and then we're going to start shooting some on here. As far as how much seam sealer to put on, you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I don't know exactly how to put it into measurements other than just having a feel for it. I shoot it on there just thick enough that I can smear it when it's all said and done and even it out. Kind of like peanut butter, you just smooth it out after you get it all on there. So you don't want so much that you're wasting any, but you don't want so little that it won't work down in all those little pinholes and everything. Here, I'm just going to use a little scrap piece of sheet metal. It's got a nice flat tip on it. You can use a plastic scraper or just about anything there. You're just trying to get something that you're not too worried about getting messed up, because this stuff sticks down really hard, and something you don't mind tossing when you're done. So then you're just going to smooth it on out, smear it out like peanut butter, just like I said. Now you want to peel that tape while this is still wet. You do not want to let it get hard, or it's going to glue that tape down. So peel it up while it's still wet, and you're left with a nice, clean, finished line. Here's where you can really see what I was talking about there. Some guys smear it on, and I like it to look real clean. And we're going to go back and we're going to hit every single weld line here. You want to jam it down in any little pinholes, any little spots where moisture could get in. That's really what we're trying to do, is just seal everything up. So every single seam, we're going to go along and tape it up, and then we're going to do the same process over again. That includes doing along the back of the cab here, which is one of the factory seam sealed lines. We're going to go along this body brace and do the same thing. We're also going to do the underside. Here on the driver's side, you can tell I used a lot more patches and I kind of piecemealed it together a little bit more. All this has been done with the leftovers, some scraps that I had around, not with full floor pans. So I had a nice big piece I used on the passenger side, but on this side I used littler, smaller pieces. But it's same thing, same process. Here you can see the underside. I got under there and I shot it up in every body brace and every little weld and every little seam, just trying to seal it all up so that we don't get moisture up in there. Dirt, moisture turns into mud, turns into rust, makes everything fall apart. Today's the big day. It's Raptor liner day. We're going to spray bed liner on the top of the floor, on the bottom of the floor, maybe the back of the cab, and the roof. We're going to see how far 1 liter gets us. I did a Jeep tub for a friend, and that was 1.5, I think, roughly 1 3/4 for the whole tub. This is obviously a lot smaller than a Jeep tub, so I'm hoping that we'll have enough with 1 liter. If we don't, then we'll just order another liter and keep going. But we'll see how far 1 gets us. Probably be good for you guys to know too, if just ordering the $60 liter if you already have the gun is helpful. It's like $150 for the 3-liter kit with a gun, but it's only $60 for 1 liter if you already have a gun, which is helpful. It's nice not having to spend the extra money. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just making sure all the stuff I don't want painted, like the back glass, the front glass, that all that stuff's covered up. Making sure that we, Raptor liner doesn't spray like paint. It comes out a lot heavier. It doesn't mist as much. So you don't have to worry as much about stuff drifting. It really does come out and heavy. But still, anything that, could be close or that you could catch in an overspray, you just want to make sure you cover up. It's not very fun to get it off of stuff. I'll bring you guys back in once I get all of this masked up. Okay, you guys can kind of see what I'm going for here. So I've masked off the bottoms of the doors there where, so we don't get spray out where we don't want it, because we're going to go right up to that pinch weld. We're going to go up the back some amount. We're going to do the ceiling. I'm going to drop some, the ceiling will be last. I'm going to drop some plastic off of that, but I'm not putting it up yet because it'll be in the way. It'll be hanging down here as we spray. It'll get in the way. So for now, I'm just going to leave that how it is. But we're going to get the floors here. Now, one thing that I'll caution you guys about is make sure that you are factoring in what your bed liner is going to be for when you are masking this off. So for me, this is going to be under my floor layment. It's either going to be a rubber mat or a carpet kit, but it's going to go underneath. So I don't need the finish to be a surface that's going to get walked on and stepped on a lot. I'm going to do it well, but you definitely want to be a little more anal with how far you mask and how far you take all of this if it's going to be your primary floor surface. So if you're not going to put something over it, be really tight on all of your masking and everything, because if you skip a little section, you have some red primer showing through or gray primer showing through or original floor colors showing through, you're going to see that and it's not going to look well. So just keep that in mind as you're masking off how much of this is going to get seen. For me, this is a preventative measure for rust and moisture, and it's just going to make it last a lot longer, make these repairs last a lot longer. This is something that if they had done it from the factory, these floors wouldn't have had a speck of rust on them. But anyway, let's get into setting up for the spray. I'm going to wipe down the back here with wax and grease remover as well as the floor pan, and just kind of get geared up, and then I'll start mixing the Raptor liner and walk you guys through that. Okay, here's our 1 liter Raptor liner. Here's our hardener. So let's go ahead and figure out how to do this. Here we go. It's got a little child safety lock on it. First thing we're going to do is open the hardener. Open the Raptor liner. Pour the hardener in. With this kit, they give you just enough hardener for your 1 liter. With the other kit, you actually have to measure. If you have the 3 liters, they give you a much larger container of hardener. So you have to actually measure. But it's pretty easy. Next step, put the lid back on, shake for 2 minutes. Nice thing to do also, especially if you're reusing your gun you've already used, get it hooked up, make sure it sprays through. You're setting your nozzle for 40 to 60 PSI. I tend to be on the higher end of that, 50 to 60. I start at about 65, and then, when you pull the trigger, it drops back down to 55 or so. So that's kind of how I run my gun. I like a lot of pressure. I want that heavier texture. So the further away you are and the higher pressure you are, the more dimply your texture is going to be, and the closer and the lower, the smoother it's going to be. Also, if you want it to be more textured, like I do lighter passes. So do a bunch of light passes. You do heavier, thicker passes if you want it to lay down smoother. But I really like that dimpled, textured bed liner effect when it's done. I'll bring you guys back in as soon as I'm done doing it. All right. I'll do my best to stay out of blocking you guys here. We'll see how well that goes. So here's the gun. Here's the bottle. You just unscrew the lid and screw it right onto the gun. It's pretty simple. Makes for a nice, easy cleanup too, because you can put the lid right back on the bottle when you're done and throw it away. I have to cross those threads. Oh. There we go. All right. You can quickly see why the seam sealer and the welds, they don't matter that much. They get covered up and you can't see them. I'm going to spray half and then I'm going to get underneath. I'm just doing the first coat here. That was no good. Well, as you can see, it's a little thin in a couple spots. And got some of the roof, not all of the roof, before we ran out. But really did, I mean, I got good enough coverage, I think, for what we're doing. You can see the underside here. Got all that fresh sheet metal covered. Everything that I OSPO treated got covered. So it's a success. You can see some hiding rust particles were up in some areas, got blown out. But all in all, though, I'm pretty darn happy with it. I got enough coverage, I think. I would say that if I had advice for that amount for this job, I would have skipped the roof. Maybe just bought some rattle can to finish the roof, rattle can bed liner, and I would have done another coat on the floor. It is good enough, though. I mean, this is primered underneath. It's now bed lined. I made sure to hit it nice and heavy where all the seams are. So we're in good shape. Turned out really good. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment section if you guys have any. But yeah, turned out real nice.